We are live. And my suit's kind of bunched up at the top. My suit's kind of bunched up at the top. Oh man, people are looking at me, but we don't care. I need somewhere to put this so it looks better. But I want to talk to you guys about business and why business is the great equalizer, why businesses drive communities, why businesses create wealth, why business is where your focus should be, not jobs, not getting minimum wage, all that stuff. And so I had somebody, and I get this a lot, people say, hey, I want to start a business, but I need to find out what I want to do. And that's the wrong thing to do. The wrong thing to do is to find out what you want to do. The right thing to do is to find out what needs to be done. So I'm at a point in my business life and career where I don't start businesses, I solve problems. I don't want to start a business that doesn't have a problem attached to it. And that's what people should be looking at. It's like, what problem are you passionate about? What can you help people do? What can you improve? What can you build? And I always tell people, like, the beauty of kind of the community as it currently exists is we got a lot of problems. That means we got a lot of opportunities. That means we got a lot of wealth that could potentially be created. So I wanted to go live, talk about a few things. But one of the most important things I want to talk about is just telling people, like, don't start a business. Don't follow your passion. Follow what needs to be solved. Look at what can be improved, what can be created. This gentleman, he said funding. Funding is a huge issue, but you know how you can create funding? You can create a crowdfund that only lends. Just create a crowdfund, and what they do is they provide loans to other people. And there's a business that is lending. And the way that you secure your business, if you're a lender, is you have collateral. So you're not going to lend somebody or give somebody a loan if they don't have collateral, if they don't have credit, if they don't have a job, if they don't have a work history. And that's just intelligent lending. So if you're going to go into the lending business, which is a problem that needs to be solved, then you got to be an intelligent lender. You have to be able to lend intelligently. So which podcast? Last episode of the podcast was fire. We got 2 podcasts now, but I'm assuming it was the Andre Hatcher podcast. Thank you guys for listening to the Andre podcast. He's a great guest. He's been on the show multiple times. The brother is super successful. I don't know what your question is. He says, even with bad credit for my divorce. I just said intelligent lending. Therefore, if you have bad credit and you have a divorce, you might need to get a partner, brother. You might need a business partner. You might need to be strategic. You might need to figure out how can you make yourself attractive to lenders. So I think that don't focus on your downfalls. Focus on maybe finding a strategic way to get to your solution or to your goal. But yeah, people, I believe in business. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in creating an unlimited income for yourself. Not so much as doing what you're passionate about and that you love. What people don't realize is if you have a degree, you have a business. If you have a skill set, you have a business. You can either let somebody else market you, or you can market yourself and you can create the upside. How's my hair look? It looks kind of crazy. I don't know if I should cut it. I've been growing it out. I'm like, I don't know if I should keep it this way. So that was one thing. Somebody told me that they wanted to talk about LLCs. They wanted to talk about why they're important, the benefits of having an LLC, all that stuff. So a really quick rundown is the importance of an LLC is for tax purposes and for liability purposes. Do you have any books or podcast episodes on long distance investing, like in Detroit? I'm gonna get to that as soon as I talk about the LLC question. So basically what I was saying is that for tax purposes, you wanna be able to be taxed like a corporate entity gets taxed, meaning that you get taxed on your net income. So you make money, you spend money, you invest your money, and you get taxed on the net. Employees make money, they get taxed, and they get to spend the net. It's a completely different reverse, and that's why you'll see a company like Amazon who pays no taxes, or Apple who pays no taxes, or all these companies that pay no taxes. It's because they can take advantage of all these write-offs, all these tax credits that benefit corporate entities and businesses. The tax code is written to benefit business owners and investors because business owners and investors improve the country, they improve the community. If you create a business and you put a grocery store in the hood where there's a food desert, guess what you just did? You just created food in a place where they have no food. Solve problems, don't start businesses. So the other is liability. You want to separate yourself from and your personal resources from your business, meaning that you shouldn't be completely exposed. Your property should not be under your personal name. It should be under a corporate entity. Your business should exist as a corporate entity. So therefore, if somebody has a problem with you, they're suing the corporate entity, not you as an individual. And so you protect your personal finances, you protect your home, your personal home, you protect all that stuff. However, one of the very cool things I saw this week is our law firm, the cars that the owner drives are actually owned by the law firm. And so this is twofold. I just had an idea. I was talking to somebody, and we're gonna start a company that rents out cars on Turo. And we were thinking about, hey, let's go buy the cars cash and let's just go to the auction, buy cars cash and rent them out on Turo. And I was like, that's stupid. Why don't we create an LLC together, get business credit, and then get the financing for that LLC, and then we just arbitrage it that way. So instead of paying a bunch of cash to get it done, we keep our cash and we just use a corporate entity and business credit to fund that business. So we create Todd Capital Motors, and we decide to have Todd Capital Motors, and then Todd Capital Motors goes out there, buys 10 cars, whatever cars, and then we run it like a business. We gotta start thinking business and not just job. Too many people are thinking like, how can I do it? Not how can this business do it? How can this entity do it? How can this organization that I've created now have a car company? And that's what you have to start thinking. You might have to secure it with your personal credit in the beginning, but as you grow, you don't have to. So, books or podcast episodes on long distance real estate investing. I hear what you're saying, but I got a course on long distance real estate investing, and it's very affordable. However, if you dig, I'm pretty sure on YouTube I have a lecture on long distance real estate investing. If you Google like Todd Capital Investment Club, long distance real estate investing, I'm pretty sure I have one on there. There might be a podcast. I might have been on somebody's episode. I think I discussed long distance real estate investing on I think it was like Black Real Estate Conversations podcast. So if you look through my Instagram, you'll see it there. But really the most important thing about long distance real estate investing is putting your team together. When you invest at long distance, you become a CEO. You become a true entrepreneur, somebody who gets things done through other people. And so you're gonna have to have somebody who's gonna manage your property. You have to have somebody who's gonna go and check up on your property. You have to have a contractor, have a property manager, have a realtor, have all these different people that serve your business, not you. So many people are thinking individual. Whenever people think business, for some reason they think job. They think they gotta do everything instead of thinking, I gotta think so big that I can create an organization that's gonna then serve this real estate company. And that's what's more so important. Is it a real estate company, or are you just like creating another job for yourself? And so real estate investing long distance is a business. It's not a job. It's not your responsibility to go over there and paint the walls or do the carpet or do all that stuff. And so when you start thinking from that mindset, you start thinking of, okay, well, I gotta pay a property manager, so that means I gotta buy another property to pay for the property manager, not I gotta take more money out of my own pocket to pay for the property manager. You gotta think asset-oriented thoughts. So I'm gonna scroll up and see if there's any more questions. Yeah, keep asking questions. The course is on the Gumroad site. It's gumroad.com/Todd Capital. So yeah, I think we touched on a few things. LLCs, talked about long distance real estate investing, talked about all that stuff. I don't really got much else to talk about, but I'm in the train station. I missed my train, so I gotta wait for the other train to come. But yeah, ask questions if you have questions. Today I got time because today I got time. Yeah. Oh, I'll type it in. That'd be better if I typed it in. Pin comment. All right, he said, how have you stopped people from baking? I'm glad you asked that question, because that's a good question. That's so the very first thing I did when I started investing long distance is I found somebody who invests in that state successfully. And through my conversations with him, one of the very first pieces of advice that he gave me is he said, you need to put an alarm in that property. Put an alarm in the property, so you make sure there's power in the property, put an alarm in that property so that then if somebody breaks in, they don't stay long. People are gonna break into that property, but if there's a siren going off, they're gonna get out quick. If there's no siren in that house, they have all the time in the world. Once they're in, they're in. Nobody's gonna know they're in. Once they're in, they're hidden from the outside at that point. And so I know people who have gotten things like dogs, and dogs are door and window guard systems, and those are helpful. But if you have a dog system with no alarm, you're still going to get broken into because they're going to find a way. They might go through the basement windows. They might go through the side windows. Once they're in, they're in. The most important thing you can do is get an alarm. Now, the cool thing about getting an alarm is that you can monitor it from your phone. I get emails about this alarm all the time. I can arm and disarm it from the phone all the time. I know who's coming in that house and who's leaving all the time. And if you really want to get good at it, you might want to even get a camera system. But the most important thing to keeping people from breaking in is, in certain regards, you can't really keep people from breaking in. But one of the things I'll tell you is a lot of that fear is unfounded. A lot of people think that you're going to get broken in because you have a vacant property. But what I've found is people don't break into properties where they see activity going on. People break into properties that have seen to be abandoned. If you have a property that people that don't see anybody going in and out of, there's no activity there, those are the properties that get stripped. If you have a property that you're actually putting effort into, you put an alarm into, you put window guards up, people leave those properties alone. And so a lot of people will just think, oh, it's a property with nobody in there, but you got to qualify that vacancy. Is it active vacancy or is it abandoned vacancy? Two different types of vacancies. And it's important that you understand the two, because I know people, and this is why it's so important to, when you get around people and they teach you a few things, it's really important to still put some respect on that person's name, because you don't know what they're not telling you. And so I have people who I've worked with who went off and did their own thing, and they're getting break-ins because there are things that I was doing that they didn't know why I was doing them. And they skipped that step, and now they're getting break-ins when they didn't realize all the stuff that I told you isn't everything that I know. It's just what I happened to tell you in that moment. So that's all I got to say about that. Of all the cities, Jacksonville, Philly, Cleveland, how did y'all pick Detroit? We picked Detroit because that's where the money was. Sometimes you got to follow the money. A lot of people are, we looked all over. I mean, Philadelphia is huge. Philadelphia is a great opportunity. I don't think I really heard too much noise about Philadelphia to say I want to commit to it. I think Philly might have been an area we slept on. I definitely overlooked it. There's opportunity there to actually buy some stuff, and still opportunity there if you can get the right deal. Cleveland, I didn't pick Cleveland because I didn't see any activity there. So again, you have to, it's deeper than just a city. You got to look at the activity going on in that city. You got to look at the investment going on in that city. You got to look at who's investing in that city. You got to look at the history of that city. Detroit was once a major city, which means it's going to eventually come back. So I read this book. It was one of Donald Trump's book, and then talking about how New York at one point in time was like a dump. And so what they did is they invested a bunch of money back into Manhattan, and they, quote, made it great again. And so I realized, and I wrote a blog about this, about making things great again. I didn't invest in Detroit because it had the potential to be something. I invested in Detroit because it was once something. It now is not anything, and it has the potential to go back to that. So it's a qualifying aspect. You have to look at, like, who's investing there, what are they investing there, what are they putting there, the major sports teams in an area, are those teams any good? What are they doing there? Like in Detroit, they're doing a lot of tech investment. They're bringing a lot of factories back. They're bringing those jobs back. And it also just created the best bang for your buck. It allowed us to get in and buy a whole house for very cheap, get some experience for very cheap. And now we're trying to apply those skills even locally. I always tell people, like, the skills that I learned investing where I could allow me to invest where I want to. So now I'm looking at properties and I can identify a real estate opportunity because I've been in the game. So I can look at that property and I can say, okay, this property is right next to this great property, but it looks really bad and it's so run down, it looks abandoned. I need to go talk to somebody about buying that property. I'm not trying to buy the most glamorous, beautiful thing. I want the ugly stuff, the forgotten stuff, the stuff I can get a bargain on, the stuff where they're trying to offload it because they don't want to have to deal with the headache. But all that factors into the purchase price. So, yeah. Congratulations, Roger Thomas. I know, what is this guy talking about? I'm out of the block. I don't know what he's talking about. How do you battle increases in property taxes? So I haven't had that issue yet, but you can always appeal and protest your property taxes. Property taxes is not a one-way street. So they impose property taxes. You can always appeal those property taxes. You can protest those property taxes. And you can get those down. But one of the most important things is, and that's when you start kind of getting into the politics of it. I gotta block this retard. Yeah, what's he talking about? I don't know what that guy's talking about. So let's see. How do you battle increases in property taxes? I would just say that you gotta be, we haven't had that issue yet, but if we do have that issue, we're gonna go to battle with the property taxes. and we're going to fight back, and we're going to push back, and we're going to see if we can get them to come more reasonable. And when that happens, unfortunately, it all gets passed on to the end user. One of the things I always tell people is like, renters don't get a free ride. They're not getting a free lunch, because everything we pay for, they pay for. If we got to replace a furnace, guess who's paying for that furnace? If we got to replace the roof, guess who's paying for that roof? They might not pay for it immediately, but it'll happen. We've had issues where we had to have like $1,000 repair. We waited 3 or 4 months, and tenants paid for that repair. They might have thought we did it for them, but they did it for them. Have you purchased a property from the land bank? Yes, it was the worst decision ever. I would never do it again. I don't recommend buying a property from the land bank when you can buy properties online for just as inexpensive as the land bank, or you can buy them direct to the actual owner. The land bank is just very, very strict, and they can actually make your deal unprofitable. One thing that I will say is maybe the land bank has properties in better neighborhoods. So one of the properties we bought from the land bank is probably one of our better properties. It's in the better neighborhood, better part of town, and maybe that's why we haven't had as many break-ins, or had any break-ins really ever since we first bought it. We bought it when we had to get a squatter out there, but after that we were kind of good to go. But we have purchased from the land bank. I wouldn't recommend it though. It's not my favorite way of buying a property. Let's see. There's no more questions. I only got a few more minutes. I can't miss this train. But yeah, hopefully I was able to answer some questions, bring some color to what we're doing. And probably need to cut my hair. Y'all looking at me crazy. Y'all like, what's he doing with his hair? Since we're here, we have an investment club. All the links are in the bio. Everything that you could ever want to do is in the bio. We got the link to the investment club for stocks, investment club for real estate, and the HBCU Capital Group. Also got the different webinars that we offer in the links in the bio. Everything is in that bio. And we're also creating all new products. Let's see. Please do a webinar or a series specifically on. That's a good idea. I might have to do that. I didn't think I could do that, but I will. I will definitely do that. A webinar or a series on Detroit investing. I will do that. I can do that. Let's see. Advice on getting started. My advice on getting started is get some partners and get going. Get some partners and get going. A lot of people who have worked with us and who started working with us are now doing their own thing on their own, because they realize that it's real, and they realize that it's attainable, and they realize that it's not rocket science. And so your first deal, 2 deals, you might have to split it 25%, but that deal 3, 4, 5 might not require you to partner up, and you have the profits to kind of go off on your own, and the skills and the connections. I tell people a lot of times, like, the most valuable resource that we've gotten isn't necessarily the money, it's the connections, the skills, and the experience, and the track record. Now we have a track record where I can tell people that we're doing this. Or we have the skills and the connections where people respect you more. I talk to people now and it's like, I know that you're doing it. And so it's a different conversation at this point. I'm not somebody who has aspirations of doing it. We're somebody who's already done it. And so that makes a big difference. Credibility will take you far. A track record will take you far. And you might have to start smaller than you hope. A lot of people are trying to invest in their backyard, and your backyard might not be profitable. And keeping it 100, your backyard is probably set up for you not to be able to invest there. And this is something that I want to talk about, is in a lot of instances, you got to realize your landlord knows how much you make. They know what the wages are in that city. And so the home prices, the rents are set up so that you cannot really afford to own in that area. Because if you can own, then you can separate yourself from their employment. If you can liberate yourself from employment, then they have no employees that ultimately make them wealthier. And so I think that it's important to realize that if you can't get started, you need to find where you can get started. And that market might not be your backyard. It might not be your backyard until you get the assets. You might have to, and that's the thing, is like, after you become a player, then you can come back home and be a player. Then you can come back home and have that conversation confidently with people. So very important to get started and to find the markets you can find and partner up with people. If you're in an expensive market, you might have to partner up with somebody. Even if you aren't in an expensive market, you still have to partner with somebody. You might be in the Midwest where properties are affordable, you still might have to partner with somebody. Don't despise the partnership. Don't despise working with people. Don't despise splitting the profits. Everybody talks about splitting the profits. Like, what do you think you're doing with the bank when you pay them the mortgage? You're splitting the profits. What do you think when you pay in the interest? You're splitting the profits. Do you know that for the first 15 years on that mortgage, all you're doing is giving them profit? all that interest is their profit. And so you'd rather give a bank the profit but not your community, and not people that look like you your profit. That doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. So I think that that's my solution, and hopefully it's actionable. I think it is. And if you need help, holla at me. I gotta catch this train so I don't get in trouble. Hopefully I can save this live, because when I don't save lives, I can't upload them to Instagram or to YouTube, and we need that YouTube content. Be great.